I didn't see a problem with it at all. It was like, they're not bothering me. Okay, so they're advertising to me, but it's just advertisement. What's wrong with that? They're protecting my data while they collect everything they ever need to know about me to advertise to me. It's all very, very mutually beneficial. And I told myself that story right up until it was like LastPass or OnePass or one of those password manager companies was like, hey, just letting you know, we're going to ransom all your passwords to you for $1 a month.
Welcome, Fedi Friends, to episode 52 of Fireside Fedi. I'm your host, Ozoned. Fireside Fedi is a show about folks within the Fediverse. If you are seeing this, you are a part of the Fediverse. My guest today is Kit. Kit has an incredible list of skills. She's a ref for her local roller derby, system software.
One moment. It's actually they.
They. Thank you. Okay. They. I apologize. I usually ask beforehand, and I forgot.
It's all good.
They are ref for their local roller derby. They're system software generalist, Owncast Newsletter creator, DJ, and much more. Kit, thank you so much for joining me. How would you like to be addressed? I think we already covered that, but
Kit's fine, and they them. But I'm glad to know that my presentation skills are doing so well that you defaulted that way. So
yeah, and that's the thing is normally I do try to be very mindful about that. It's one of those I appreciate being open with me about it, that you feel safe to stand up and say that. If I make a mistake again, please let me know.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. But that makes a great place for us to start, because this is about the Fediverse. And of course, the Fediverse is one of those places where we, get that kind of opportunity for inclusiveness, community, authenticity, depth of connection.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it matters, even if, something as simple as someone's name.
Yep.
Right. We have folks out there that use their real names. We have folks out there that want to keep that level of privacy. And, we should all respect just everyone else's choice. If you can't respect someone else's choice, that's fine too. Leave them alone. You go do your thing.
Totally.
Right? It's that easy. Kit, how'd you get to where you're at today?
Well, that depends on which flavor of where we're talking about, but let's at least constrain it a little bit to like some of the Fediverse related projects, at least to get started. Because the Owncast Newsletter is kind of something on the Fediverse I'm being known for.
Yeah.
And how did that happen? Well, Sherman, we set the Wayback Machine all the way back into the pandemic.
Okay.
And that's where so many people's stories, I think, like, especially with the Fediverse, get started. I'd actually been active on the Fediverse since slightly before the pandemic. It was sort of the like FOSTA and SESTA like years, and specifically this sort of like there was this moment where Facebook was they tweaked an algorithm accidentally, they said, and it was actually muting all posts that were related to like queer families just talking about their lives. And a friend of mine at the time and a friend I knew through roller derby, we were like, we've actually got to get the heck off of Facebook. And so we started a Mastodon node together, and that's Signs and Codes, a very tiny little private one. Mostly it's just the two of us. But I got started there, and then shortly after we got that teed up, pandemic struck, and I picked up my pandemic hobby, as everybody did, and mine was learning to DJ. Incidentally, I will totally give this as I get no promotional considerations for this whatsoever. But any of you out there wanting to become the best like bedroom DJ you can, there is this absolutely wonderful YouTube channel and online course. It's quite inexpensive. It's called Club Ready DJ School, And the guy who does it is this delightful Australian guy who is like, he's like the Bob Ross of DJing. Like,
Oh,
he's
that
just
sounds
like,
awesome.
he's like, right, no mistakes, only happy accidents. Like he really, he really is good at getting you to understand that, like, yeah, go out there, mess up, try things, like,
Right.
but here's how to get started. So anyway, I went
Yeah.
through the coursework on that. I started practicing a lot. And there's only so long you can,
Well,
play for your cats and your partners before you're like, I need to actually have an audience. And again, pandemic and things like that going on. Thought the best way to start would be to stream, or because it would at least get me on like a work schedule where it was like, if I'm streaming X number of times a month, then I will play X number of hours a month, and that will get me the practice time I need.
yeah.
Um, so I started out that way, and we had in the past we'd noodled around with Twitch and stuff like that. But I've been around the block when it comes to capitalist social media, and I've realized very quickly that this was even before Cory Doctorow was formalizing intuitionification. I was just like, there is an 80-20 distribution at play. Like 20% of the content creators on Twitch are getting 80% of the audience.
Yep.
And that's by design. It's not
Yeah.
some sort of natural democratic virality. That's a stickiness that's built into the system.
Yep.
And occasionally, with the big guy putting the thumb on the scales because they want to push, a sports thing or something like that. So I was like, I'm only gonna get like 5 people tuning in tops. That's the nature of the beast. I'm not gonna get like Twitch famous or something like that. So, if that's the way it's gonna be, why am I even doing it over there? Like, I should be getting myself some extra skills. Let's see how hard it is to stream myself. And that caused me to stumble onto Owncast, like circa, I don't know, 2020, 2021-ish. And I set up my own self-host on that and played around with it. And at some point, started to fall into some of the bigger music shows at the time. There was one called Junction.tv that was pretty big. And, so I was having a final time with it, playing to like the handful of people who would drop by. And I really liked it. And I really like Owncast as an ecosystem, but I felt like it honestly suffers from a problem that even Twitch has, which is like, it's very, very difficult for me to like look at the streamers of the world and be like, yes, this fits my schedule. Like, I am going to make time to tune into this show, and it's because there's kind of just like, there's a discoverability problem. It haunts Twitch and YouTube and all of those just as much. But in a place where there's no algorithm to even put the thumb on the scales of like 10% of the people, you can't even battle for the discovery power of the algorithm. So like, I was like, there's a lot I can't do for Owncast. I am not a back-end developer. I'm not a web front-ends developer. Those are the two biggest things that they need in terms of developer power. But one thing I can do is start trying to publish something like a TV guide for the Fediverse. And I've never really hit that goal of actually like TV guide with a schedule, but at least, periodically I'm able to put out something that's like, hey, here's this streamer who's actually online a whole lot that you should probably know about. Let's feature them. Let's talk about the projects that are out there. Because like, if you just go by the Owncast directory on any given night, you're going to find the 24/7 streams, and that's good. But that's not appointment television. And, there are people who do that. There are, there's a lot of people like the Gravitons project out there, or, like Junction, when Junction was on the air, or Operation Puppet with the co-making streams. Like,
he's awesome.
Knowing about those things, knowing them like when they're on is like part of getting into their community. So this is like at least one way to create a global scope where we can feature somebody occasionally and like try to make the rest of the Fediverse see it, and maybe leave
Mhm.
behind an archive for some search results. So that's how that project got started. And then the irony of it is that as writing the newsletter started to become more regular, I also, as the pandemic lifted, I started actually getting gigs because I had developed as a DJ. And so now I have like at
Nice.
least 2 regular nights each month that I play out, and frequently more, which means
Yeah.
I've stopped streaming.
Well, and I mean, I think it's interesting the way you say it, because you you know, there's so many people. You tried and you just took on so many new things all at once. And it seems like you weren't afraid to do it. It's just like, okay, let's see what happens. Let's see where it lands, right? And I just had a guest on Evo Terra who said something similar. It's, you just get started.
Yeah.
If there's something you're interested in, just get started. You're going to make mistakes. Guess what? That's how you learn. You
Yeah.
cannot learn if you do not get started.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And like getting started and sort of remaining motivated and optimistic to the journey, but also like being realistic about what
Yeah.
the targets along the road will be, means a lot, right?
Yeah.
I did a lot of role playing games, tabletop role playing games during the pandemic as well. Lots of times to sit around with partners and live
Yeah.
stream to 3 people on Twitch. Like that's also how I realized that like your typical Twitch audience is like the 3 people personally. Is I did
Right.
plenty of like actual play streams where it would be just the families of the players tuning in. But I started like doing a lot of like, as they call it, game mastering or storytelling in those, and
Mm-hmm.
like there was a phenomenon they talked about called Matt Mercer syndrome, which is basically you watch this elite tier like Dungeons and Dragons guy, Matt Mercer, telling
Yeah.
stories, and he's got everything planned out and like 500 pages of lore, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a voice actor, so he can do the voice of every NPC just the way he wants. And you know it creates this idea that if you're going to get into it, you have to be like that. And there's another like top tier storyteller. He's actually one of the World of Darkness guys, Jason Carl, and I watched his show one time and just had an exchange with him at one point on Twitter where I said, like, thank you for like inspiring me to get started. It's through
Yeah.
you, and especially your backstage admissions of every time an episode went off the rails, that I realized like I'm never gonna have the perfect game session. What I'm
Yeah.
gonna have is like a mess, but it's gonna be my beautiful mess. And he's like, yes, go make a beautiful mess. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's what I would say to anyone. It's like, go make a beautiful mess.
just have fun with it, right? I mean, especially
Yeah.
something like tabletop gaming. As I've told so many people, back before I had kids in the before times, my wife and I, every month we would host our friends for a game night, and then
Yeah.
usually every month one of them would host. So like we were literally gaming, 3 out of 4 weekends a month. And when we would invite new people, they were like, well, I don't know any of the board games. It's like, okay, hold on. 2 things. One, none of us know any of the board games. That's part of the fun. We all learn together. And 2, the board games are an excuse for us to be social.
Yeah.
It breaks down those walls of awkwardness when you meet new people, because you can focus on the game, learning the game together, and just being silly and having fun.
Yeah,
And
totally.
I can, the whole point of discoverability on Twitch and then just having fun, and it's only going to be for you and your friends anymore. Like, you might as well bring them to your house instead of going, to the middle of Walmart, essentially, and
Yeah.
and putting everyone through that. Like, Twitch does what it does well, but it is horribly optimized. You still have ads, like all of this stuff that I don't really want to put, unless my friends know of Twitch, right? Like, there's no
Right.
point in having someone have to go through all of that. And I love that. And you are, as you said with Facebook, right? You learn from Facebook that you kind of need to bring your community to a place that you can kind of run, you can control, you can protect each other, not having to worry about that. And who knows, maybe Twitch will or will not go down that path. It kind of seems like they will. Uh, so why not build it out yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is the era of like the re-siloing of social media.
Yep.
Like, I mean, even people who are staying within the world of like, centralized, for capitals benefit platforms
Mm-hmm.
are tending to leave the I love that how you called it going to Walmart, because it's actually how I describe both Twitter and Facebook is a parking lot full of people shouting at each other.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not a normal pattern for people to socialize in.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, like if you look at how you make a physical space for people to socialize in, you don't just make a giant empty field and deposit the
Right.
people there where they can hear each other's conversations. Like that's
Yeah.
build a park that way and see how well it goes, right? Um, and so like even people who are staying within centralized capitalist platforms are tending to leave it's been my observation they're tending to leave flat field places like Twitter for Discord communities, which
Yes.
are small individual siloed places with more curation about who comes and who goes.
Right. Which, in my opinion, is actually kind of a good thing because it gives Twitter less power. I don't like the fact that everyone's moving to siloed platforms inside of a siloed platform, right? That no one can get in, except through their gatekeepers. I would like to see things like Discord more open, like going back to forums, but it is what it is.
Hmm.
Um, but it's interesting because I was just having this conversation with the Media Revolution folks this morning about we have called things like Twitter and Facebook social media, and maybe at one time they were social media. Now they are just media. There is very little social going on there, save for, as you said, screaming in a parking lot. I'm getting my message out and then I'm walking away. And yes, there are other people that will shout back at me, but most likely I'm not going to have an active conversation.
Yeah.
That is a form of social. I don't like, outside of something like billboards, right? Is not a normal human means of communication.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know that the evolution of that kind of interaction was like something that was ever planned or even necessarily done with malintent. It
Yeah.
literally like if you go back to the earliest days of Twitter, you couldn't even use a web-based client to post on it. It
Yeah.
was dropping text messages and getting text messages.
I loved
Um,
hearing about that. I never knew that. Yeah. Twitter started out as in line with SMS protocols, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. And it was a pre-smartphone era, so that was why. Um, but
mm-hmm.
the term microblogging applies to these sorts of formats, and like at the time, the predominant way that you got your message out was through your blog, and so it was basically a way of having a bunch of micro blogs that all interacted with each other, and the result was just putting things in this flat field, and then unfortunately there was money to be had in picking winners and losers in those
Yep.
conversations.
Yep. Do you
um yeah, go ahead.
do you feel that your communities, the folks that you know, are more inclined for something like the Fediverse, or are they still happy, slightly consuming Twitter or existing in Discord?
It's really interesting, because in real life, uh, with the exception of the people I have met through the Fediverse,
Sure.
which
Yeah.
shout out to if you're not following him on Mastodon already, a guy named Andrew Roach. He runs, among other things, a streaming service called New LJ TV. He actually lives in sort of a semi-rural mountain town just to the north of where I do. Um, I think it's AJ Roach 42.
AJ Roach
I think
42.
is he on Retro Social or something like that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, But
Yeah.
like he's a in real life acquaintance. But I met him through the Fediverse. But accepting those people, it's actually been really difficult having anybody from my sort of in real life social circle get on
Yeah.
the Fediverse. Some of it is just the network effect of,
Hmm.
for them, they do not have like the rest of people there want to have the rest of their social network already there.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just another damn like app.
Yeah.
Um, and that slows it down a lot. Just that sort of de facto like
Right.
friction. A lot of people weren't like me, where it was like I got on the Fediverse and then realized I liked the 8 people that I'd never met on the Fediverse way more than
Yeah.
like a
Anyone
bunch
on
of
Twitter?
yeah. And so like basically what happened was just like I stopped paying attention, and then I eventually just deleted my accounts because like I also just realized how completely toxic the discourse was, even when it was communities I was supposed to be aligned with.
Hmm.
Um, so, but most people aren't like me. They just want a way to share a picture with their real life friends. They're
Right.
going to be where their real life friends are and where
Hmm.
there's an easy app to do it.
And to
Um,
consume content when they're bored, right? That's what TikTok is even though being bored is okay in my opinion, which we all need to learn again, it feels like it's to consume content. And when there's no content or very little content, and when there's really none of your friends, it's a hard sell, right? Yet
yep.
another app that you have to log in and create an account and follow, and it takes time
Yeah.
and energy.
Yeah. And the handful who do have like the gumption for that, um, there's a reasonable subset of them who just don't find the proposition as compelling as you might think,
Yeah.
because what they see is still like a network of fiefdoms with potentially petty dictators at the top of them, and they don't like that either. But
Interesting.
what they don't have is the gumption to just go start their own like node,
Yeah.
and that's reasonable because like I
Yeah.
run one, and it boy does it get old.
I I I literally just this past week was trying to fix my Castopod, which handles the audio portion of the show, the podcast, because I broke it. I like it was me. It was not even like the app did not. I fully broke it in many ways. They were super amazing to help me, but like for a company that needs, for a production company or a podcast company, like yeah, that's risky,
Yeah,
right? Like I totally understand it. Or LinkedIn. Right? I know
yeah,
a lot of people talked about LinkedIn. It's like, okay, but if I run my own and it goes down and like then I can't get a job and I need a job, it's what you value, I guess, more than anything.
yeah, yeah. There's definitely that. Um, so yeah, all that's to say that actually, where were we getting off on that tangent from? We were asking something. It was something about real life community and the
Yeah,
Fediverse.
how have you found moving, talking or being able to move anyone? Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
I know that a lot of the Fediverse, because you have those different fiefdoms, right, are different groups. A lot of them are marginalized groups that have
sure.
experienced something or are afraid of what you've experienced on Facebook or Twitch or Twitter or whatever. So I didn't know what your experience had been in that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things where I'll show it to people and they'll be like, "That's very interesting," but like you know, it's just very very difficult to drill through that. And I get it. Like I get it at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Like why is it's like why is everybody in my roller derby league on Instagram? Well, the derby league is also on Instagram.
Yep.
They all get co-promotion that way. um
Hmm.
it's and
And
that's where
everyone
our
hates
audience
it.
is going to be. Like we have to
Yeah.
like, and we have to sell tickets. Similarly, I go through this as a challenge like all the time. when I look at wanting to do like self distribution of my mixes, or even keeping an archive of when I've streamed, is like I'm
Yeah.
playing commercial music, right? Like some scraper bot from ASCAP could just come across my stuff and be like, money please.
Yeah.
um and and here's the thing is like, if I put that on SoundCloud, if I put that on Twitch, if I put that on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get monetized, and that's fine, but they will protect me from, the copyright police.
Yeah, and that's one of the crazy things about it. The copyright was there to basically prevent you from making money off of someone else's work. Vast majority of these claims, YouTube, Twitch, SoundCloud, someone just loves the music or loves the game and they just want to put it out there. And they're not making any money that way from it. I mean, you can argue that those big Twitch streamers, are making money, but it's not because of the song. It's because of who they are and the entertainment and whatnot. But yeah, you're taking some risk out of it, right?
Hmm.
So I totally understand that. You and one of the things that I've come to find, I just got a tattoo a couple months ago, and like I was talking to her, she's like, "Yeah, I'm on Instagram," and I'm like, I've never been on it. She's like, "I wish I didn't have to be on it, but we all have to be on it now. That is the people's
Yeah.
default place to go." And it just amazes me that we can all, even those that are not involved in that kind of social media, even those that are on here, all of us can agree that this situation is shit. No one wants to be on any of these things, but so many people have tied their livelihood to them that they have to be there and they don't see a way out. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest issue for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely true. And like, this is of course where like the Mark Fisher idea of capitalist realism comes in, which is like, if you're not familiar with Mark Fisher and
Mm-mm.
capitalist realism, basically he had opined at one point, and he's quite right about this. Like, think of all of the capitalist dystopia stories we tell, right? Like, of all the science fiction that we
Sure.
do, where the world ends because
Uh-huh.
capitalism, right?
Yeah.
Or something like it, right?
Yeah.
He basically noted we've reached a point, and it was sort of, it was the end of the Cold War that finally brought it on in its final form. We can more easily imagine the end of the world than we can the end of capitalism.
Holy shit.
And and I use that we very broadly, right? Like, that's
Right.
an abstract we, that he was referring to, but it's very hard to think outside that system, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore it's very hard to be a first mover on anything. um, because it's like, yeah, okay, so a bunch of us all can transfer over to, say the Fediverse or something like that, but it's like, but how are we going to get ours when we get there? We still got to eat. And like,
Right. Yep. Yep.
case in point of me, again, like, I don't keep a personal Instagram, but as a DJ who, occasionally gets paid for the show,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, the first question I will be asked by a new fan is, "What's your Instagram?" And so,
Yeah.
I still keep a very small one that is like purely for professional purposes, that I access through a VPN and privacy mode, and never a
Yeah.
mobile app. And like, the one time that I needed the like Android app to get something done, I actually went and got Waydroid and basically ran Instagram in an emulator so that like I could preserve
Yeah.
privacy.
Yeah.
um
I
I'll
love it.
go to those lengths because, unfortunately, like, these forces just drag you like right back in every
Yeah.
time.
No, so I went to All Things Open a couple weeks ago. It's a open source conference here in Raleigh, North Carolina, because Red Hat is here. And every single booth that I walked up to talk to people about, are they aware of it? What do they do, et cetera, et cetera. The number one thing that people said is reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Yep.
I don't have a LinkedIn. Do you have an email? Oh, well, yeah, I can give you my email. And I started to realize after 6, 7, 8, literally every single one, every single person there has a LinkedIn. And it's like, okay, I have to have a LinkedIn to be a part of, to spread this word, and that's fine. But it's like, again, how can we look at this and be like, yeah, this is okay. This is this is the only way that you can get a job is to go be on this platform, and that's horrifying.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's easy to tell yourself it's not. Like I used to be a great fan of all the big platforms out there. I didn't see a problem with it at all. It was like they're not bothering me. Okay, so they're advertising to me, but it's just advertisement. What's wrong with that? They're protecting my data while they collect everything they ever need to know about me to advertise to me. It's all very, very mutually beneficial. And I told myself that story right up until it was like LastPass or OnePass or one of those password manager companies was like, hey, just letting you know, we're going to ransom all your passwords to you for $1 a month.
Yep.
And, that's when I realized the horrible mistake I'd made. And now it's very much the moment that you are an undesirable to LinkedIn, they can simply terminate your profile and
they don't need you. They have
grossly
everyone
kneecap
else.
your ability to earn a living.
Yeah. And and that's one. I was never a fan of social media. I had a Facebook account back when Facebook was only for colleges, literally when I was in college. And I only had it begrudgingly because my friends kind of made me get it. And my entire thought the entire time was, you don't know who's back there. And they're like, well, it's Mark Zuckerberg. It's a company. It's fine. It's like, no, you were having these private conversations amongst our friends or making public statements, and they're collecting all of this. My biggest fear about all of it is that, crazy enough, we could have a government that forces a United States business to give them all of the data they've collected and target people, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
And everyone would always tell me that there's no way that this would happen. Like that's horrible. That can't happen. And now it is a real possibility.
Yep.
And it's it's horrifying. But and I think it really is that mentality though, like you were saying, like but it's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And and I accept that I was I won't even say I was young and naive. I was as recently as I was early middle aged and naive, I think it's an easy thing to do as well. Like I'm from the final year of Gen X, and as we were sort of in the pre-show talking about things like hackers or Fruitopia ads, like I grew up and got in on technology because I grew up in the era when there was a lot of optimism to be had, and before they had we had really perfected these business models that sort of make everything a little bit worse slowly. I just as a pure aesthetics of design, my very first computer was the Radio Shack TRS-80 Color Computer 2. And
I had the same thing. Did you have just a keyboard or did you have the whole?
I had the cassette deck as well. So I had a keyboard and a cassette deck.
Yeah, see, I've talked about these. That was literally my first.
Yeah.
And I've tried to explain this to people, and they're like, oh, it was a full set-top computer. And it's like, no, it was a keyboard you plugged into a TV.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that's literally the same one I had.
That's exactly the one.
Or had.
Yeah. I mean, I think when people think of the complete set, they're thinking of the Model 1.
Okay.
The TRS-80 Model 1, I think, was a complete unit. But yeah, the color computer, and I love to tell people this because this is an aesthetics of like joy. You know this as well as I do. When you powered on that screen, it came up in like Chernobyl day glow green with a rainbow flashing cursor,
Yeah.
like 16 colors cycling on that cursor at all
Yeah.
times. Cursor was practically its own little like keyboard responsive pride flag. Like that is the sort of thing that you do. That honestly, that's the sort of thing that
Well,
somebody on the Fediverse would do for their toy operating system, you know?
yeah.
And when you grow up in that era of sort of unbridled optimism, like it's
Yeah.
very easy to be like, oh, well, these platforms are just the next iteration in that
Yep.
unbridled, Dayglow, delight us all like optimism.
Well, and it
And
was,
it's only after they started to make their heel turn that I started to really
yeah.
understand.
And it was magic back then too, right? Like you
Yeah,
literally you said some ancient language and it did magical things.
yeah,
Literally the exact same feel that I had. Like I can control this power. I could create something. That's what I fell in love with as well. I was in high school when I found out about Google, and it was amazing and incredible. And I remember when I first started seeing the chinks in this armor, and now it has gone so far the other way. And you're right, like young and naive. And I feel like though, like, are we at that step with the Fediverse? Like, we keep telling people it has to be monetized for one. Two, there are going to be ads. They probably won't look like what we have today. There won't be an algorithm, but there's nothing stopping Coca-Cola or your local roller derby league from being on there. And that is technically an advertisement, right? Like, come see
sure.
us at the show. And those are okay. It's this massive collection of information, experience, data about everyone around us at all times, and you can't get out of it. That I
Yeah,
think is the major underlying issues of these. Um, yeah, piece of cake. This is
yeah.
a very lighthearted show today.
Yeah, well, so I think the secret is that we're going to have the revolution. I
Yeah.
don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be
Yep.
great. And on the other side of that, I also don't know what it'll be, but it will also be great. So now that we've solved that,
Have you heard of the I think it was Utah interoperability law that they put into effect?
I heard something about this.
Yeah. Yeah, Utah, I believe it was Utah, passed a law on that platforms have to be able to interoperate, meaning that you can take your Twitter and move it to LinkedIn and things like that. And it's funny because everyone I've talked to about this are like, Utah? I was like, yeah, it's like any other state. Like, I don't know why. It's not seen as the bastion of technological advantage, right? But I think that something like California, who literally is steeped in it and stewing in it, probably isn't the best place to have that fight. Like I,
Right.
um, and
And that
one,
actually makes a certain sense. Like, I'm formerly from Silicon Valley, and like the
okay,
number of people that got fed into that ecosystem coming
yep,
out of either U of Utah or out of Brigham Young is actually quite high. So it's,
really,
yeah, and
okay,
the if you've ever fired up like a test program for your 3D accelerator, your GPU, and like
hmm,
seen a teapot, that's I believe the U of Utah teapot. Um,
oh, okay,
so
I
I
didn't
mean,
know.
there's a history of technology there. It's very adjacent to the system, but I
Interesting.
think the other thing is that like interoperability and related things like right to repair,
Yes, yep,
like these are not progressive ideas. Like
no, this is the
these are,
default.
yeah, exactly, and it should be the default. And on top of that, as much as obviously anybody who looks or talks to me knows that I am not naturally conservative, but if you weed out like the authoritarian like wing that has taken over American conservatism, what used to be sort of a dominating like cultural value underlying like the old conservative guard was a
Yeah,
romanticism for sort of America's yeoman farmer who was self-owned and self-possessed. And
yeah,
within that, things like interoperability, right to repair, literally
Mm-hmm.
the right to take your ball and go home, to own yourself. Like, these are like values that are common in there.
Yep.
And a lot of that is, it's interesting to see where the line gets drawn, because where did the line on right to repair get drawn? It happened the moment that John Deere started to like
Yep.
turn the screws on America's farmers,
Yep.
because suddenly it's like, oh, well, that pierced the veil of the yeoman farmer illusion. um
Well, and it's interesting because we talk about anyone that kind of studies politics or anthropology or anything like that. Everything is cyclical, right?
mhm.
Because it has to go too far one way to then start swinging back the other, right? We call it a pendulum, right? And that is a perfect instance where it's finally trickled down to someone that is an absolute fundamental base of a party, that they're like, okay, this needs to stop, and then we'll probably see it swing back the other. I'm hoping it swings back the other way, not just kind of hitches back, but that is the default. Never in human history that I, am aware of, do you rent everything. You own nothing. I mean, slavery, I guess, is probably the closest thing. Not indentured servitude, I guess, is probably a better word, right?
Yeah, debt peonage.
Yes, right. And it's incredible that we've willingly given this away. We didn't realize at the time, right? But we've willingly given it away to the point where, as you said, you can't imagine the end of capitalism, but we can imagine the end of the world.
Well, and
Capitalism has forced this.
and it's interesting, because I have had conversations with people about the way in which, like, ownership of your own products, right to repair, is starting to infect the automotive industry, for
Yep.
example. And
Subscription for heated seats.
and well, and
What the
and there has certainly been, there's certainly been like patents filed. I don't think there's ever been a successful implementation of. Oh no, wait, that's right. I think it was BMW might have
Yep,
done this, where
BMW.
it was, you have to
Yep.
subscribe to the extra cylinders in the engine.
Oh yeah. I think they did that. I
Like,
definitely remember the heated seats thing, which I thought was hysterical.
yeah, the heated seats thing is always an example, but it's like, once you can do that, it's like, well, we're going to cut you by 50 horsepower unless you pay us every year.
Right.
uh
And
and
then your car that you own, you no longer own.
and this is like where I will have these conversations that just tell me how far we have like fallen, you know as a culture, down this rabbit hole.
Yep.
I will say this, and then I will actually have some people who will say, well, I mean, that's much more convenient. The company only has to make like one car that has the heated seat hardware in it. They don't have to make two sets of seats. Uh, and it's like,
I don't
right,
care.
but yeah, it's like, I don't care what an automotive company needs to do or not do in order to make it
That's
more efficient. Like,
this
maybe you should just give everybody heated seats
uh,
and be done with it.
it is amazing how we've come to this point of defending these gigantic corporations as if they were real people that need defending. I hear it constantly on Twitch. Oh,
Yep.
well, Twitch has to run ads because they're not making money. One, I don't give a shit. Two, that's their problem, not mine. You are
Yep.
pulling in billions of dollars and you're not making any money? Then you need to refactor something. Stop giving it all away. And
Yeah.
and that's what I think is one of the biggest things that has come out of Ozone Twitch rant incoming, of course.
Oh, so Twitch rant incoming. I'm glad to know this. Yes.
Yeah, is that all of these companies rushed to get it done, to give it away for free, and now have come back. And like on Reddit, they said it's time to grow up. How do we make money? Oh shit, the only way we can do that is by abusing your privacy. And that's not okay. And my thing is, I don't even know how people can work there and think that that's okay. But I'm also nowhere near that side of it. Like, everyone, there's a lot of folks from Twitter that are on the Fediverse, like folks that worked on Twitter.
Yep.
And the entire time, like, they're like, we're making a great thing. This is a great thing. This is a great thing, until the point of, holy shit, Elon Musk just bought this. It is not a great thing. We all need to bail.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that I tell my kids all the time, and I wholly believe this. Anyone can justify any action to themselves. It's whether you allow yourself to justify it, right? I can justify, punching someone in the face. Oh, well, they were wearing red, so obviously they're a Nazi, right? So it's okay to punch Nazis, but they're not. And that I think is the major problem. I would not trust myself with people's data that these companies have gathered, let alone anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the thing, and this is something I was actually musing on over the summer. So for anybody who's actually tuned in today and read an Owncast newsletter, people may have noticed it's taken a couple of months off. I went on some travel in Europe and took a little time to myself. And one of the things that I committed to out there, I mean, I did use my phone camera when I needed to share a photo with like my partners back home or something like that. But like I committed to taking analog cameras with me to like document my trip, and very specifically instant film cameras, which has become just this thing. I'm absolutely just gobsmacked and delighted with like instant film cameras right now. But the thing that was quite shocking to me, because it's been so many decades, despite growing up in the tail end of the analog years, what really was shocking to me was I had forgotten how completely inconvenient those cameras and their film were going to be while backpacking, like while traveling Europe on one piece of luggage. And it's like, you want to shoot a 3x5 like instant photo, that camera's got to be at least 3x5, to cover that. And so it's like, you've got this huge camera, you have these huge pieces of film. I suddenly had to like dig back into my deep 80s, 90s knowledge of how to interact with airline security about the fact that I have analog film that cannot be exposed to X-rays.
X-ray.
Like all of these things. And I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. It is way more inconvenient. Like I shudder to think how many cubic inches were taken up in my bag just for packs of film. And that ultimately, I think, is the story of like, how did we get here? Is like, well, we got here one little tiny convenience at a time. It was more convenient. It felt good. It's easy to like just burrow into that tree trunk and nestle up and make a little nest in there. You do have one, but meanwhile, the tree is now rotting.
But it is inconvenient. I was literally having this conversation yesterday. So quick sidebar. If someone calls you and tells you missed jury duty and you have to pay a fine, don't believe them. My wife and I did, and we almost got scammed out of some money. But I went to the bank, and as I was in this emotional state, I was literally reminiscing about, like, I remember going to the bank with my dad on every Saturday because he had to get cash, and like, it was time consuming. But you also got to be out in society and meet people. And we've lost these weird little things that, yes, it was very inconvenient. And I love how you said this. It was an analog era. You didn't just have to stare at your phone all the time. And that made me feel so old saying that. And it's interesting because it's a pain in the ass, but yet there's something so physical, so real about it, because it is, that we've lost out on and we all kind of miss, I think. We need to marry the two somehow.
Well, and it's interesting because like I love to use my recent experiences with instant film as like an example of embracing the inconvenience to find like another thing on the other side of it. Because again, I was like one of the last Gen Xers. Depending on who's telling of history, I was born the day the Sony Walkman came out. So, you don't get more child of the 80s than that.
Oh, hell yeah. I remember
Polaroid photos. Like I grew up with instant film, right?
We couldn't afford instant film. Like, that was the nice film, right? Like my dad had the old camera with just the regular film. We couldn't afford an instant film camera because it was just so much more expensive.
Yeah, well, and of course the irony being that if you you didn't get better pictures, you just got them right away, which was like
Yeah, right.
an amazing thing
Yeah.
to be able to get a picture right away instead
Mm-hmm.
of having to wait till you finished the roll. And then anybody who's from that era remembers the experience of getting the envelope of 22 photos from your vacation and 2 photos that you don't even remember taking, but just happened to be at the beginning of the
On the
roll when
roll.
you took
Yeah.
the camera with you.
Right. Or even better is when you have an entire roll that's just all black because you didn't even realize you had the cap on the camera the entire time. And
Oh,
now not only did you waste money on the film, but you wasted money to have them printed.
but so point being is like I
Yeah.
grew up I grew up with Polaroids as part of my life, but
Yeah.
like our transition to digital photography created such a
Mm-hmm.
relationship with captured images.
Yeah.
And it's so totalizing that the first time a Fuji Instax rolled off of my camera, I held it in my hands and watched it develop. And my just this emotional part of my brain went, "Oh my God, it's like a spy movie." And I'm like, why am
Imagine.
I thinking that? Like, but it's just because it had been that long since I had seen it happen that like I only
Yeah.
experienced it as something out of an old movie. Um,
Yeah.
what I've found, I never leave home without my Instax Mini now, because anywhere I go, if somebody's having like a happy moment, like we go up to LJ, we go to the winery there or something, and like there's a cute couple and they're trying to take a selfie. If
Mm-hmm.
you pop up and take a physical photo and hand it to them, it's like manna from heaven. Like,
That and that could go on a wall, right? Like you can
exactly.
just like grab it right then and just poke it on a wall. You don't have to go print it out. And no,
Yeah.
that it has become such a more memorable, magical thing. That's awesome.
And people like people, I think, at this weird emotional core that's very hard to describe, when you hand them a fresh developing photo right off
Yeah.
of the camera, they also have this onrush of realizing what we lost
Mm-hmm.
for the sake of convenience, because all of a sudden they're like, I don't ever get a photo that I hold in my hands. And then implicitly, a lot of them quickly go, wait a minute, Google, Apple, what have you, didn't get
Yep.
a copy of that photo. Like, you can see the
Yeah.
whole emotional process like unwind in real time.
Well, and it's allowed us to take so many more pictures. Like I take a million pictures of my kids, and I have, I think, one picture of me as a child. And the only time you would expect to lose those physical pictures is during a fire, a catastrophic event. And now the
Mhm.
catastrophic event is, well, we've decided that you don't pay enough and we're going to lock you out until you pay us X dollars to get all of your photos back. Or the company goes out of business, or they have a data loss. Again, all completely outside of your control. That happens way more often. They've become a dime a dozen, right? It's not as magical as like you're saying, and they can also just go away.
Yeah. Which is to say, like, survival tip on big platforms number one to anyone who's watching: go get your Google Takeout or Facebook Archive or whatever it's called on the platforms you're on. Go request those right now.
Yeah.
Make sure it includes all your media,
Yep.
and go buy yourself about 5 cheap USB sticks and just get a copy of that right now and shove it in your
Yeah.
drawer.
Yeah. I wholly agree. Yeah, because you never like, unless for some reason you don't care about anything that's on there from the past, which most likely if you're still on there, you care. Um, Even if it's that silly, stupid comment you made to a friend once, that's going to matter someday in the future. Hopefully for good reasons, but sometimes even bad reasons. To pivot the conversation, because I wanted to
Sure.
get this in. You're a ref at the Atlanta Roller Derby.
Yes.
Please tell me all about that, because roller derby is, For those that don't know, back when I was a kid, there was like fake roller derby. This is real roller derby. And
Yeah.
my wife and I, when we lived in Pittsburgh, we went to a couple of these, and they're awesome. They're amazing.
Yeah, Steel City, they've had good teams.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
so much fun, and like it's the first time I've ever seen my wife actually like stand up and shout at some kind of sporting event. Like it is just it's great.
yeah, so I've been in roller derby almost as long as roller derby's been a formally organized sport. Actually, I'll quickly give the brief history of the sport,
Yeah.
because a lot of people don't know the sport actually goes all the way back into the Depression years.
Oh, no kidding.
Um, and the first thing to be called a roller derby as a major event was something from the Depression years, and it was part of a sort of category of sporting spectacle from back then that would be races that went for a very, very, very long time. There is still actually a kind of bicycle race called a Madison. It's a sort of tag team bicycle race done on a oval. Um, and that is actually called a Madison because of Madison Square Garden, where they would have
Oh,
these as many laps as you can in 24 hours, as many laps as you can in 48 hours kind of races. The tag team
zero.
format was because the state of New York actually said it's unsafe to have people trying to do this. So then they're like, fine, we'll make it a tag team so everybody can rest for 12 hours, in theory. Um,
Jeez.
sports promoters, especially in the 30s, like had no shame about anything and even less value on human life. But one of those races was a roller skate race, and if memory serves, the goal was to do as many laps as would take you from New York to Los Angeles or something like that. A
Oh my
very, very
God.
long race. And
Yeah.
basically, what the promoters found out was that what people really loved the most was watching fatigued skaters colliding with each other.
Yeah.
So they slowly started to develop but what if roller skate racing, but all collisions, like sport? And that quickly hybridized with professional wrestling, which was starting to have a big moment at the
Mm-hmm.
time and produce, as you called it, like it's a sports entertainment sort of thing.
Right. Yeah.
um, Super, super popular way up until the 70s. It was on
Mm-hmm.
television. Usually a UHF station would run like the local pro wrestling outfit and then the roller derby show, like back to back. Um,
That's awesome.
and
I didn't know
then
that.
it just, it just stopped being a thing. It stopped being the fad that it was. There were attempts at reviving it. Child of the 80s, like I first saw it on TV in 89 on Fox under the name Roller Games.
Oh,
It
I didn't know
lasted
that.
like one season.
Yeah.
It leaned even harder into the pro wrestling like stereotype. So sudden death over time in a roller games roller derby involved putting an alligator in the middle of the track in like a kiddie pool. It was not an animatronic alligator, everyone. They would do their best to make it
Okay.
seem like it wasn't a real live alligator, but it was all showbiz, right?
Yeah.
But you won by either your team won by either sending out a champion who could like get 5 laps faster than the other guy, or who could throw him in the kiddie pool with the alligator, right?
All
Like
right.
just absurd stuff.
Yeah.
But so there were all these attempts at like reviving it over the years. But ultimately, what happened was you had people who had cultural memories of it who
Mm-hmm.
would at like motorcycle rallies, they would like bring their roller skates and in the parking lot, like set up a little flat oval
Nice.
and try to play something that seemed like what they had seen on TV. Um, I think it was 2005 was the like actual formalization of it by establishing what's now called the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, or WIFDA. Um,
Okay.
and Atlanta Roller Derby was one of the original signatories to that organization. Um, and that created a formalized rule set and made it, so-called legitimate sport. And that's sort of like, where do I come into that? Well, 2005 is when it formally organized. 2007 is when I entered roller derby, actually as a video production like volunteer. And that is how I actually keep my roller derby name, CB DeShill, which is a joke on the film director Cecil B. DeMille, because I originally started out directing video crews. And I did that for a very long time, and then at some point decided that I wanted to. I actually have a huge phobia of roller skating, believe it or not. Like, I
Wow.
liked watching others do it, but I was afraid to be on skates myself because I'd had some bad childhood like experiences. I was not taught very well as a kid, but I was like, I'm going to go do the thing I'm scared of. I'm tired of making. I'm tired of making the show. I want to be in the show. So.
Yeah.
I at Atlanta Roller Derby, I started as a non-skating official, and then I was basically the timekeeper. And then
Okay.
I went and joined their introductory skating program and learned to skate, and then started skating as a referee. And since the since the pandemic, I'm actually the co-head official of Atlanta Roller Derby. I share that with my two partners in crime, Braun F. Kennedy and officially Anna. And we manage the referees organization and staff the games and ref the games ourselves. Anna is also a player, and we have a sibling team, Terminus Roller Derby, which skates under the auspices of it's called the Men's Roller Derby Association, but no men's team is just men. It's a true open gender team,
Oh,
basically.
nice. Okay.
So cis men, cis women, people of all gender identities and expressions play on that team.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's roller derby is like actual community sport. That's the thing I like to tell people about it.
Mm-hmm.
Go like wherever you are, there's a really good chance there is a roller derby league to be found within at least an hour's drive of you. Or
And
I should say at most an hour's drive of you. And it's real community sport.
Yeah.
Even in the, I call the men's teams open gender. The women's teams are open gender except for cis men. So women and any marginalized gender identity are welcome in it. But go support your local team, because like community sport is one of those ways of getting out of the house, touching grass, being in community, being around people, like
Yeah.
having someone to cheer for. If you're queer identified in any way, your team is going to be incredibly queer. So you're doing a thing for your community by just being out and being a fan and like holding up the sign that says, Twink 182, go, go, go.
Yeah.
Like
It's just
that matters. And like, if there's one thing I can definitely say is like, there's themes from everything that we've gone through, like going back to like I think boredom is powerful and we should like be
mm-hmm.
bored more. I agree with that. Like embrace boredom, embrace inconvenience, embrace like analog meet space community. Like, if you need the
I
right
love
tools,
that.
invent them. You will never be able to fight like the great powers that want to take your joy from you, but you
Yeah.
can at least carve out some pockets where that joy can live. And that's so I give a lot of my time to roller derby for that. As somebody who was actually terrified of being on their skates, like my first night on skates with them, my goal was to just keep the skates on my feet despite the screaming in my head, right? Like that was my goal.
That's
As
bravery.
as somebody who did that, like I also turned around and started teaching that introductory class because I knew that there would be people coming in line behind me
That's
who were feeling the
amazing.
same way and who needed somebody to be like, don't worry, I was actually worse than you, like,
I and
go
that's
ahead.
the thing. Everyone is always like, "Well, no, you're not worse than me because I'm terrible right now and you're not." It's like, no, but everyone starts somewhere. It's interesting you say this because when my wife and I were going to that, the roller derby. She at one point was like, maybe I'll join. And I was like, yes. She's like, but I don't know how to skate. It's like, you'll learn. It's okay. Just go try it. Actually, for anyone
Again,
out there that hasn't seen roller derby, just find a local league and go check it out. It's so much fun.
yeah, and
And go
and
from
like I
there.
said, if you're living in the U.S. or Europe, there's probably a club near you that you just don't even know about.
Yeah.
You know, it's yes, the big cities and the metropolitan areas, but there are a lot of rural towns where there was at some point a skating rink built because social roller skating was a thing, and
Yeah. In
that
the
building
80s and 90s.
probably
Yeah.
still exists, and there is probably a roller derby team that is practicing out of it that you don't even know about.
Yeah.
If you're
Well,
outside those places, guess what? Roller derby is actually probably still popular within certain circles wherever you live. Um, we actually had an Atlanta skater, baller shot caller, uh, who like raised money at one point to fly to Indonesia to start like roller
wow.
derby clubs out there to teach classes. Um,
That's
at
awesome.
one point, I don't know if they're still together, but at one point, Cairo, Egypt had the Kai rollers. Um, for the right before the pandemic struck, like I think it was like the fifth best in the world was Dos por Cuatro out of Buenos Aires. So like
Okay.
there are not just teams, there are elite teams like
Yeah.
all over the world. There's one in your backyard. Go check them out.
Yeah.
And you genuinely will meet everyone from somebody who had never ever even thought of exercising, let alone playing a sport before, until they got into roller derby. There will be that person on the team, and right next to them will be an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah. And it's amazing to watch. Like there's actually a lot of nuance around it and learning the rules and like there's a lot of strategy and it's interesting because you as you said you enjoy that physical aspect of it, but when someone
Hmm.
is actually hurt, you also see the camaraderie not just from the team itself, but from the other team and from the crowd. Like
Yeah,
everyone really embraces the whole thing and it's one of those things that it brings community and even just going into a roller skating rink. If you're my age, you spent some time there in the 80s or 90s and they still smell exactly like they used to.
that is so true. So Atlanta, we don't practice in a roller skating rink. We actually have a warehouse, like a concrete floor
Oh, okay.
warehouse that we practice in. And when we hold our games, we hold them at the basketball like gym of a local college. So like I had
Interesting.
forgotten about the experience of being in roller rinks,
Oh yeah.
like until we
It's
went to, I visited like the neighboring city, Athens, Georgia, where they do
yeah.
use a roller rink, and I walked in, and that mixture of like
Mhm.
polyurethane as it off gases mixed with like pizza cheese
Yeah.
and stale popcorn butter that have like seeped into the carpeting.
And the roller skating like funk that kind of comes out.
Yeah,
It has a very unique smell like an 80s arcade has a unique
yeah,
smell, right? Like and immediately again our sight is so useful and our hearing is so good, but when you get a smell of something that you had when as a kid, like it just takes you right back. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that smell. It's interesting. Before we move on to the
yeah.
quiz, someone
Oh,
in
there's a
our
quiz.
there is a quiz. Someone in our chat asked, when is MXKS coming back on the Fediverse again?
So MXKS Mix Kiss, that's that's my DJ
Mixed
personality.
kiss. Okay.
Um, and yeah, I have posted it on Mixkiss DJ's social, but I just haven't in a while. It's like sat as a stale tab, and I think the thing I'm looking for in like Mixkiss coming back either on Owncast or even just being more engaged on Mastodon really just boils down to I'm looking for a project to engage with. Like one of the big motivators for my streaming became Junction.
Yeah.
And Junction just doesn't do things like they used to. They've put out, I think, like one show since 2022 or something like that. And I haven't solo streamed in a while, just because for me to do it just for me, it's like it's on the nights that would have otherwise been spending with my family, because I have so many physical playing out nights. Um, that said, somebody asked when Mixed Kiss is coming back, so maybe Mixed Kiss needs to come back,
Yeah.
right? Like it has been a hot minute. I actually need to actually just get the Owncast node working again, because DreamHost changed where my S3 API buckets are and stuff like that. So I have to get the server back up. This actually gets to something we talked about, like in the sort of like pre-conversation, is like, there's a lot of prep time that goes into a stream.
Yeah. 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 I just this morning I spent about 2 hours getting this ready. So yeah.
But yeah, maybe Mixed Kiss is due to make a return, is what I'm hearing in there. It's like, hey, you
Awesome.
forgot your roots. So maybe I need to just get it set up and get it out there in the near future. Not this weekend for sure. I have a wedding I have to be at all day on Sunday, or Saturday. But yeah, well, I'll get that soon. It'd
Awesome.
be nice to do again.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, there you go. Now for the real reason I asked Kit here is to give them the opportunity to win a prize of a lifetime.
Oh.
Our prize today is a Japanese tea set for cats. Thought about a trip to Ibiza, but I couldn't find a flight and room within our budget of $0. So there you go. You ready?
Well, that's all right. I just got back from there myself. So.
Oh, nice. You ready for a quiz?
Sure. Let's try it.
Favorite movie and why is it Spaceballs?
Favorite movie and why is it Spaceballs? Well, so I think the first answer is Spaceballs, and the second answer is because it's an endlessly quotable movie.
Yeah.
Like Spaceballs to me is sort of the pinnacle of the Mel Brooksian farce,
Yes.
and like it's kind. Like it, there's this "you can't make Blazing Saddles anymore" remark. I don't even mean that. It's just like the Mel Brooksian Jewish humor farce is like from a certain like generational time and place.
Yeah.
And we just don't do it that way anymore. But it sits there perfectly set up, and for anyone who's a dork, it is the like entry point into Mel Brooks, because it's a Star Wars spoof, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not joking. When I was in middle school, like to pass the time at recess, a friend of mine and I would simply walk laps around the running track and try to recite all of Spaceballs from memory.
I used to know every single line of Spaceballs. Literally, I once quoted the entire movie. My cousin and I were working a summer job, and I just started at the beginning and I quoted. And at the end, this being that I'm 5'9", and at the time I was like 120 pounds, and he is 6'5" and like 275, 300 football player, stands over top of me as soon as I'm done and says, "If you ever do that again, I will beat your ass." And I said, "Okay, you could have stopped me in the middle, but sure." But like, yes, it is. Every line is so quotable. There's a second one coming out.
I keep hearing these rumors about it.
Mel Brooks announced it, I think on Blue Sky, and then everyone kind of mentioned me because every single quiz I open with this. And they have shown pictures of readings. They got the cast and they're sitting there doing readings. So I am nervous.
Did they commit to it being Spaceballs 3, The Search for Spaceballs 2? Because that was the last working title I'd heard.
That would be amazing. I hope so. Because that's, again, as you said, it sets the tone perfectly, right? Like it is, I don't know if you know the game Goat Simulator. It's a stupid game. You're a goat and you run around and do stupid things. And then the sequel is Goat Simulator 3. And everyone's like, well, where's 2? And it's like, but that is the joke.
Right.
There doesn't need to be a 2. That would be amazing. I hope that is. I don't know if they've announced the title yet or not. But yeah, cautiously optimistic. So excited to hear that though. All right. Good answer for your first question.
Okay.
Next question is X's or O's?
Ooh. I'm gonna go with X's on that one.
Okay. Why?
Uh, well, they don't get used in a lot of words. I'm paraphrasing from Mitch Hedberg on this. But
The late
they
great Mitch Hedberg.
won't they don't get used in a lot of words. But they do get to start a lot of terms that don't seem like they need it, like X-ray or xylophone, which is pronounced with a Z but spelled with an
It's
X.
like an X, yeah.
And they're associated with kisses. So
Okay.
there is that.
I thought, are they hugs or are they kisses? I don't know.
I thought the O's were the hugs.
Oh, are they? I mean, I get. Oh, okay, sure. Sounds good to
Well,
me.
whatever. We'll go with X. It shows up in wacky places. So
this is the exact issue that I always have, like with people with movies. It's like there are talking animals, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, the doors of that car shouldn't open like that. And it's like there are talking animals, right? Like we're arguing whole semantics. Like, is X the hug or the? It doesn't really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question is red or blue?
So I'm gonna just go with blue on this one. It's the color I am much more likely to be seen wearing than red.
Okay. I like that.
I've always just been preferential to blue as a color. Deep greens and blues are the colors I choose.
I like greens. Yeah.
So,
greens are so natural. Yeah. All right. Excellent question or excellent answer. I love that. Okay. Next question is, what does an alternate universe kit do?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. There was probably an alternate universe kit that went to film school.
Oh,
interesting. And is probably not directing, but might be a director of photography.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
That's like the dorkiest of the directing roles to be in. You're sitting around painting with light and arguing about lenses constantly. So that sounds a lot like my vibe.
All right. Well, I have an alternate universe phone. It takes different shapes every week. This week it took the shape of two Bao Ding balls that I might or might not have gotten from a Spencer Gifts in the late 90s. And I reached out to an alternate universe kit. Alternate universe kit is a roller derby DJ. Originally, I thought that meant that alternate universe kit played music at the roller derby, but they actually have their DJ equipment on skates and they DJ while roller derbying. So I would love to see that.
That's rather fascinating. It's achievable. Like they do make controllers that are just about the size of like a hand. So
nice. All right. Awesome. Next question is Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man?
So Miss Pac-Man, largely because they tweaked the mechanics on it.
Yep.
They tweaked the game speed. The cinematics are way better.
It's all around better.
It's a slight bump up in it. It's fundamentally the same game, but just more so.
But it's like if Pac-Man was the proof of concept, Miss Pac-Man kind of just brings it all together. It's that extra little polish for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will definitely say I have not played a Pac game that actually tops it. When I was a kid, if I was at an arcade or, again in the 80s, the arcade might just be your gas station.
Yeah.
Because they would have 2 or 3 games in the back there. if you found a baby Pac-Man, you knew you were in the honey hole, because that is a hybrid. That is a hybrid video game pinball.
I don't think I've ever played that one.
You could once per life escape down the bottom of the maze, and a pinball would eject out onto a physical pinball field, and you would play pinball. And like, if you played it well enough, you could get the ball back up into the TV, and it would become a Pac-Man again.
AR. That's awesome. Augmented reality. I love that.
Yeah,
I've never played it.
It was wacky.
I played some monstrosity when 3D was coming out, where Pac-Man, they try to take him 3-dimensional, and like you could jump over ghosts.
Yeah.
And then it was like, this is pointless because I could just jump over the wall and I can jump over ghosts. Like there's no, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I've played that, and I am not a fan. Just give me Ms. Pac-Man. It was not even Super Pac-Man. I've never even figured out the mechanics of Super Pac-Man, to be totally honest.
No.
Anyway.
And then they did a whole side scroller, like, yeah, Pac-Man's gone a lot of different places. Good for Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man. All right. Last question, as usual, will be sent to Kit telepathically. I'll send it to you, and then take your time. It's always a very difficult question, and then let me know your answer. You ready? Here it comes. Okay, there's your telepathic question, and let me know your answer whenever you're ready.
At 3 o'clock, except on alternating Sundays.
Interesting. Wow. It always surprises me every time someone answers the different questions, because I was not expecting that. Awesome. Well, congratulations. You got every answer, either
Yay.
correct or incorrect. Good job.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we got the Japanese tea set for cats, and I was having my cat test it, and like any other cat, she just smacked it off, and it broke into a million pieces on the floor. So,
of course.
I apologize.
That's all right. I will definitely say the knowledge that I won here is a greater joy than even Carl Castle's voice on my home answering machine.
Wow. Okay, so first off, I love Wait, Don't Tell Me. Carl Castle's amazing. He'll leave the light on for you. And that was thank you. That was amazing. I love that end. I can't even end it anymore. Thank you all for coming and listening. Everyone, have a great day.
Yep.
Bye.